So today I want to go ahead and test out the Steam Deck in the entire AC series, at least the mainline games anyway. All the DLCs and the spin-off games aren't really as interesting as the main ones. And let's start it off with AC1 and see how we do at 800p. So let's go into the graphics, and we're pretty much playing at the max settings. Here we are there. So funny enough, AC1 was the first game I finished on the Steam Deck when I got it. It has aged poorly in some areas like the gameplay, but overall it's a really fun game, and it looks great on the Steam Deck as well. Now this game is from 2007, so getting 60 FPS isn't too difficult, but still very intensive on the CPU side of things. It's mainly using up one core at 98% up to 100%, and pulling 10 watts as well on the CPU side, so not great for battery life at 100 FPS, but if you use 40 FPS or 60 FPS even, it should last quite a bit, and the game will be very smooth still, and play just fine. But yeah, it's not really ideal for any of these games to play at above 60 FPS on a handheld. I think at most use 60 FPS and then ideally use 40 FPS or 30 FPS even for those heavier titles. But yeah, AC1 plays fine. I didn't have any crashes at all. It's a bit annoying, doesn't have any cloud saves, and the controllers don't work by default. You have to go into the settings and change them there. But overall, a really fun game and worth a pickup. Second game will be AC2, and again, we're playing the game at near max settings. Going to options, graphics, here we are there. So for AC2, the game will have a 60 FPS cap, but also the controls are a bit of a mess. The game will use the keyboard and mouse, and each button on the controller will, I guess, emulate the keys on the keyboard and mouse. So it's not ideal, but the game will play just fine, as you can see right here. Just go into the settings first and lower the sense of the camera. So it definitely helps with the looking around of the game. Now 60 FPS, the game doesn't really play super smooth, to be honest. The game will stutter and have FPS dips occasionally. And again, 60 FPS can be hit, but not super stable, to be honest. So I think 40 FPS or 30 FPS is the way to go. Boom, baby. Knockout. Really fun game. Love AC2, man. It's one of the greatest. I think I played this game like 2 or 3 times all the way through. But yeah, as you can see, the game is stuttering a little bit as I'm going through at random times. We are pulling around 9 watts on the CPU in those heavier scenes with all the NPCs, and 2 watts on the GPU, so again, very CPU intensive, like AC1. And for AC Brotherhood, here we are at near max settings again. We do have a bit of headroom for shadow quality and character quality, but everything else is pretty much maxed out. So this game is definitely a lot better versus AC2. On average, I'm sitting in the 80s and 90s, but again, ideally, just play the game at 40 FPS or 60 FPS at most. Okay, well, I'm kind of forced into the intro of the game again, unfortunately. I had all these games all readied up past the intro, but Ubisoft being Ubisoft, man, just messes up with my saves each and every time. I'm kind of worried for AC Revelations now as well, because that game has a long intro, and I really hope that my save wasn't wiped there as well, because that would suck a lot. Alright, heavy situation right here. We're sitting in the 50s. GPU's pulling 2 watts and CPU's pulling 11 watts. It's all the NPCs. Obviously, we can lower the settings of the game a little bit to help with that. So yeah, I'm getting some stutters here and there, but at the same time, the FPS is uncapped, so it kind of makes sense. But yeah, still very CPU intensive, as you guys can see. 9 to 10 watts on the CPU and 3 on the GPU. And there we go. AC Brotherhood on the Steam Deck. Far better experience versus AC2, but has its own issues with Ubisoft Connect, obviously, and your saves. Okay, let's move on to AC Revelations now, and just pray that my saves are going to be there. Our fourth game will be AC Revelations, and hopefully my save will actually be here. Thank God, look at that. Thank you, Ubisoft. Alright, going into graphics, here we are with the settings. Gonna disable VSync, and we can actually increase this as well to high, but it should be pretty good overall. Alright, this game is about the same as Brotherhood, to be honest. It's not too different. Graphics look fine, and the controls are also fantastic as well, just like Brotherhood. But again, has the same issues as Brotherhood, where Ubisoft Connect will ask you for your password each and every time. And I hope it gets fixed, but knowing Ubisoft, it's not going to. But yeah, as you guys can see, the game runs beautifully. We get a couple stutters here and there with the uncapped frame rate. Again, you go with the 40 FPS cap or 60 FPS cap, you should be just fine. Okay, not much to say in this game. It's very similar to Brotherhood. So let's move on to AC3 Remastered. For our fifth game, we're playing AC3 Remastered at the high settings pretty much. Going into graphics, we are there. But here we are. This game is a remaster of the original, so it does run a bit worse, obviously. In the city, we're sitting in the 40s and 50s with a couple of stutters at the high settings. Again, very CPU intensive, pulling around 8 watts, but at the same time, still decently GPU intensive as well. If you do want to play the game at the high settings, then I think a 30 FPS cap is the most ideal, but you can get away with 40 FPS as well if you really want to, but you might have occasional dips into the high 30s. There's a little bit of fighting here. There's stutters, man. There we go, get this guy out of here. Counter him. Ooh, this guy's done too. And I fell off. What? Mid-air assassination. Alright, I think it's time for us to move on to our next game, which is AC Black Flag. Our next game will be AC Black Flag, and this game recently had an update after 10 years or so that caused the game to not be able to play in full screen. But in SteamOS, it runs fine. But if you do go on Reddit, you'll see a lot of people complaining about the issue. Since this game is getting a remaster soon, people are saying that they're trying to intentionally ruin it to force you to upgrade to the remaster version. But yeah, it's kind of weird. Hopefully it gets fixed by someone. But at the moment, it's kind of buggy and kind of broken. And this game also will ask you for your password each and every time as well. So far, it's been AC Brotherhood, AC Revelations, and AC Black Flag that have asked me for my password. AC3, AC1, and AC2, it has ran just fine. The actual game itself plays fine at the high settings. We're sitting pretty much in the 40s and up into the mid 50s. You can get 60 FPS as well at times, but it's not very consistent. You will fall down with these settings anyway. But yeah, not much to say in this game. It's a very fun game. I think it's a lot better than AC3. You can do a lot more. You can be a pirate, sail the seas, or be a treasure hunter, or just play like a normal AC game and kill a bunch of people. Everything works perfectly. There's no stuttering, there's no lagging. Go with a 40 FPS cap, or 30 again for battery life, and you'll be just fine. Let's move on to the next game now. For our next game, we're playing AC Rogue, and this game was a big pain to get going. Let's jump into the game and see how we do. This game was the final AC game on the old gen of PS3 and Xbox 360. So should run about the same as AC Black Flag, I think. The game's not the greatest, but the story does link with Unity, so it's kind of fun to, I guess, play through it and see how the story goes. But here we are with the settings. Yeah, everything's at the bottom and it's disabled. So yeah, 60 FPS cap, and there's nothing in video either. It's not a huge deal for the Steam Deck. Again, 60 FPS is about as much as you want for a handheld.
Ready to teach them a lesson?
But right now we're sitting at 2 watts on the CPU and 2 watts on the GPU, so the game is very efficient. The game was meant to run on the PS3 and Xbox 360, so no surprises there that the game runs well. Okay, let's move on to our next game, which is AC Unity. Actually, we'll go after I kill all these guys. This is just too fun. Are they gonna react to me? What are they doing? What? Okay, well, there goes the AI for you guys. Okay, let's move on to the next game now. And for our next game, we're playing AC Unity at 800p at the high preset. There we go. So I've done a full video on this game already with the proper settings, but if you just want to go with the high settings, the game is very playable and the FPS is quite good as well. You can go with 40 FPS, but you might have some dips occasionally to the high 30s, but ideally 30 FPS is just fine as well. This game is fantastic, has great parkouring systems. The online still works as well if you want to play co-op. Those are also fun. Let's go and find some enemies to kill. If we can actually find anyone here. Seems quite empty so far. We'll just do some parkouring then. It's the best part about this game. Is the smooth, fluid parkouring system. Look at this. It's so perfect. I can't believe they didn't, I guess, bring it back. As you guys can see with the uncapped frame rate, we are getting some stutters here and there. And that's why we always go with the capped FPS of either 40 or 30. In those older games, obviously 60 FPS is also a viable choice. So you can just try them out, see what you like, and go with that instead. Then we got some thieves here. You're done. That's what I thought. And you? You're dead also. Look at the movement. Perfect. Love this game. Okay. Let's move on for our next game, which is AC Syndicate. Our next game will be AC Syndicate, and we're playing the game at a mix of medium and high settings. There we go. Alright, let's jump into it, see what we can get. AC Syndicate. We're sitting in the mid-30s right now, / the low 30s. The game looks quite fantastic as well. Again, you might get some stutters with the uncapped frame rate, but if you cap it right down to 30, it should be a great experience. It's definitely weird going from 40 plus FPS down to 30. The game definitely does feel a lot less responsive versus 40 and up. If you buy this game on consoles, obviously it's going to run at 30 anyway, so not really a huge deal. And you're playing the game portably on top of that, so can't complain here. Alright, let's go up top, do a bit of parkouring. So when I'm panning the camera around, that's when I get the stutters. But just playing normally, just like running around and stuff, the game is feeling fine, even with the uncapped frame rate. But still, I would personally use a 30 FPS cap here, just to have the most stable and most consistent experience possible. Alright, AC Syndicate, not too bad. Really fun game too. Let's move on for our next game, which is AC Origin. And our next game will be AC Origins. And we're playing the game at a mix of medium and high settings. Here we are there. There we go. Let's jump into it and see what we can get. Now, AC Origins is one of the better games out of the recent games that have come out. Exploring Egypt is so exciting for some reason. And the performance is actually pretty good as well on the Steam Deck. As you guys can see, we're sitting in the low to mid 40s. Can fall down to the 30s as well, but the performance overall is fantastic. This is a PS4 game as well, I believe. So it's quite intensive. And I think when it came out originally, it ran like crap on PC. So it's definitely doing much better now. You can go with a 40 FPS cap if you want. But I think for me personally, I'll go with 30 FPS just to make it more stable and more consistent, because we are getting some stutters here and there as I'm walking through the city. As you guys can see on the stats, we are doing 96% on the GPU and 90% on every single core of the CPU as well. So there's a bit of power limiting happening here, but overall this game is very intensive and it's pushing the Steam Deck to its limits pretty much. Okay, let's move on to our next game, which is AC Odyssey. Our second last game will be AC Odyssey, and we're going to be playing the game at a mix of medium and high settings. We are there. This game will be about the same, or maybe a bit worse than AC Origins in terms of its performance. This game and AC Valhalla are definitely weird for sure. They don't really fit the series that well. They aren't really Assassin's Creed games. They're like action-adventure games, I guess. But they just have the AC title to make them sell better, I guess. But if you like Ancient Greece, the game runs well. No stuttering, there's no lagging. Again, with these newer games, ideally go with 30 FPS, but 40 FPS can be achieved as well with the proper settings. Okay, let's move on to our last game, which is AC Valhalla. And here we are for our final game, AC Valhalla. Look at the time. It's almost midnight. I started at 6, I think. Long video. Alright, let's jump into the settings. I'm gonna go with a mix of medium and high again. Some low thrown in there, and see what we can do. And here we are in the settings. It's mainly a mix of medium and low, but you get the point. Using ultra quality FSR as well. This game has the best graphics out of the bunch, but at the same time, the loading times and the server times are an absolute pain. I'm not really a huge fan of this game, to be honest. Not really an AC game, but it looks great and mostly plays well as well. You guys can see it's very GPU intensive now. We're pulling 10 watts on the GPU and 2 watts on the CPU. As you guys remember from the start of the video, all the games were very CPU intensive versus GPU intensive, and now it's flipped as we've gone through. So yeah, once you leave the city, the FPS will go up into the 60s, but inside the city is going to be sitting in the 40s / the 50s. It plays fine, there's no stuttering, there's no lagging, and the game is playable for sure. So there we have it. The entire AC collection, all the mainline games anyway, on the Steam Deck. So pretty much every game runs fine, but the main issue that they all share is Ubisoft Connect. That thing is holding it back so much. So it's a bit hit or miss, but if you like the series, then they all play fine on the Steam Deck. Alright, I think that's about it. Thank you guys for watching, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys next time for the next video. See you guys there.